So for step 17, attaching the pinion gear. Well, you can see here we're going to need our pinion, we're going to need the motor plate, we need our grub screw, and of course our motor. And you can see here that the distance from the base of the motor to the edge of the pinion should be 16.5 millimeters. Now over here, there is our grub screw. And if you remember, we are doing this or setting up the spur with the standard setup. So the gearbox is the standard setup, which means that we need the 18-tooth pinion. Now what I discovered with all the different pinions, because there's the other two in the bag, is that there's no markings on them. So you are going to have to count the teeth to make sure you've grabbed the right one. So that is the 18-tooth anyway. So you've got your motor plate over here. We've got our motor as well. So I'll set this up and let's install the pinion. So first off, let's get this off of the motor. So I'm going to grab a pair of pliers, grab the end, and pull. That one came off a little easier than a lot of them. So now we've got our motor shaft ready to go. Now let's work on the pinion gear. Now what I tend to do is I like to get the grub screw into the pinion gear before I do anything else, because it's much easier to do that than try and mess about with it once it's on the motor shaft. So that way the pinion's already inside of this. And then we're going to grab our motor plate, and obviously you have to put this on either side of the holes. There isn't another one here, which makes it easy to kind of figure out that that's obvious where the placement is. And of course that's where the screws are going to go anyway, but we can adjust this just like turning it a little bit, so then it aligns with the holes. So that's on. And now we need to get this to the 16.5, and you want this placed on the flat. So what I also tend to do is, obviously this is just going to spin around. Well, if you know that that's going to be on the flat, what I will do is I will turn this pretty much all the way to the point where it's actually able to spin the motor shaft. Because you see that pinion, or I should say the grub screw, is down enough that it won't keep turning around it. So I'm going to just, based on the picture here, I'm going to put it on more or less where I think maybe it needs to go. I'm just going to tighten it just a touch. And then I'm going to grab the calipers, which I've preset to 16.5 millimeters. And now we're going to see what that actually is going to look like. And you can see that since this needs to be to the base of the motor mount and out, it's still not quite right. We are going to pull that out just a touch. So let's do that. I'm going to turn this back, squeeze, pull it just a touch, lock it down just enough, and then let's do this again. Ooh, that's pretty bang on right there. There's 16.5. I might even be able to go just another, well, no, I'm good with that. There's your 16.5 right there. So knowing that, I'm going to lock it down. So I have this on the flat. So I'm going to use this and lock it into place. Now, a lot of people say, well, because you've got the Tamiya kit, why are you using the flimsy thing that comes in the kit? Well, for so many years, this is what I was using, that I kind of have got, I don't know, a sixth sense of where this needs to be turned to get a nice tight fit. I know people will say, oh, well, what about Loctite? And I don't use any of that. I've never had a problem with the pinion if it's been tightened down enough. And of course, because this bends a little bit when you're tightening, I get a feel for how much of the bend needs to be, and that will tell me that it's on there tight enough. And to me, this feels pretty good. So I'm good with that. I'm not gonna put anything on that. The pinion is on. And again, if we want to just do a final check here, there is the pinion, and it's pretty much at that 16.5 millimeter. So I'm happy with that. So we can put that aside. That means step 17 is complete. So we're going to move on to step 18 now and attach the motor to the chassis. So for step 18, attaching the motor, well, you can see here we're going to attach the motor with these two screws, and we've got the C12 part that's got to go over the gearbox. And then here we have part A1, and we're going to screw those in with these BA2 screws. So there are the hardware pieces. We've got our screws, and then of course we've got our motor, the cover piece, and that A1 piece. So I'll set this up and we'll put these on. So I think for this step, let's get this A1 piece on first. And you can see with this that the piece is going to attach right there. And it's in the top screws right there into the side of the chassis. And of course, this is for the battery to stop it from sliding out. So if I grab one of the screws here, let's grab this piece, and you're going to want to make sure that those are pointing out, and we're just going to screw this in. Now I'm going to start screwing it in, make sure that's going in correctly, which it is. Grab the other one now, and we'll do the same thing. And I'm just going back and forth just so that it's not, if you know, I don't want to catch anything binding, but it looks like it's going to be fine. So I'll go all the way now with this one. And because they're tapping screws, as soon as you get to the end, it's just going to stop. You'll know. And I'm just doing a last minute check there. But ultimately, that's what it's going to look like. And it'll stop the battery from sliding out. So that part is done. So what we've got left to do is attach our motor. Now, you can see that from the picture, they're showing that the motor pretty much has the opening in the motor facing backwards, and I tend to just do it the same way as the manual showing. And we know that the screws are going to go one in there and one in there, and again it has the Tamiya logo on there, which I tend to put on the correct way as well. So I'm going to slide that through the two holes here, just like that. Now, the one thing just out of interest that you can check is, if you remember, we screwed this down to the 16.5 millimeter, and you can see that it's pretty much a perfect fit. So it's exactly where it needs to be. So I'm just going to pull that out again, and I'm going to take that and slide that through both screws, making sure that that has the Tamiya logo the correct way. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to see approximately where this is going to sit. So you can see that those are the screws, those are the holes that we're going to put that into. So if we're going to have it facing with, that's kind of the way that they were showing backwards, we know that that is going to sit there and fit into the two holes that way. And because I've kind of pretty much lined it up and they're in the holes already, I can then start screwing this in. Yep, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. And I can pretty much now just fully screw this down because the motor is definitely attached. Now remember, these are not tapping screws, but I am going to turn them enough so that I can feel that they're grabbing, because these screws are going directly into the motor. So you want it nice and tight, but don't totally over tighten, but you definitely want it on there. Yeah, and that feels pretty good. So there is our motor attached to our chassis now. Awesome. So that means that step 18 is complete. So now we're going to move on to step 19 and attach the RC equipment.